ZingoTV channel 251. Please download both the Barn Burner and ZingoTV apps in their respective app store. Both apps are free. ZingoTV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. So I am in a new location tonight. I'm at Pro Skate Corner in Toronto. Pro Skate Corner is Tee It Up's first official partner right here. And they serve hockey athletes at all levels. They offer skate sharpening, profiling, and alignment services, as well as hockey equipment sales and consultations for both individuals and teams. Founder Jeff Potter, he's the man behind it all. He's the #1 true custom skate salesperson in North America. He sold over 1,300 pairs, and he takes care of my skates, and no word of a lie, he's the best skate sharpener I've ever had. So anyone in the greater Toronto area, head over to Pro Skate Corner to get your skates done and taken care of. I swear you'll be buzzing out there after they take care of you. You'll never take a tight turn the same again, and I mean that in the best way possible.
I need that.
It's a little bit different than the old days, Brooke, and Jeff has hooked me up and taken really good care of my skates, and we've had, as hockey players all throughout our lives, we've had some tough skate sharpenings. There's none of that, skidding on the ice, or you feel like you're gonna break an ankle because they're too sharp, or blowing a wheel going around the net or something like that.
That's amazing. So I can't wait for the day that I can actually come to the shop. So once the border opens, that's my first stop.
Absolutely. So let's get into it, Brooke. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I was so happy today because we had beautiful weather. With everything going on, COVID cases going up, you know what I mean? I feel like it's been very glum lately, but the weather was beautiful. The sun was out. It was very nice. It was warm, so we could go outside. Holiday season, it's just a feel-good vibe. So today was great. This week was really good. A lot of stuff happened this week. So we have a lot to talk about today, but we won't spoil it just yet. But otherwise, life is good. How about with you, Sluge?
Oh, things are good over here. All good. Still same old, nothing new to report on for me. Hockey's going well. We're still in our divided groups, only 10 people on the ice at once. Looks like that's the new normal these days here in Toronto. Gotta stay safe and, work it out until we can get on the ice all together safely. So, we had a little sniff of full team practice last week, and I'm getting the itch again to do that again. But all is well over here. Yeah. But there's some news in the NWHL. We have a big partnership with Stathletes.
I know. I'm really, really excited for that because you probably learned in school too, but even in my program or anytime we watch video, I feel like the analytics part of it is very underrated almost, because you need that. You need evaluation to kind of see where your growth is, where you're lacking in certain things. So I think the Stathletes program is really going to be huge, especially in such a short amount of time. We don't have a big staff to help do that. So it's going to be really awesome. And I think we're going to get a lot of new stats, a lot of new data that we haven't had access to before. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. And Megan Chaika, she's the one of the co-owners, one of the founders of Stathletes. So we'll have to have her on. I know we've been talking to her to get her on in the future, and that'll be a great conversation. But I spoke to her in the summer, and she mentioned an interesting stat, and it was something along the lines that women's hockey players have more scoring opportunities in games, and they discovered this this statistic at the Olympics, because that's where they have covered and helped out in women's hockey before. But kudos to them, and thank you to Stathletes for this partnership, because that'll be huge, and it'll be interesting to see some of the stats that come out of it.
I know. I actually didn't know that about the scoring thing, and now that you say that, it's super, super interesting, and that's huge for our game, especially. You know what I mean? Because everyone's like, oh yeah, the men's game is faster, more physical. It's okay, our game is physical too, first of all, and more scoring. You know what I mean? People like to see goals. So hello, we got that, ladies.
Absolutely. But there's also been some Twitter beef between.
Yeah, I'm like trying to go through the Twitter feed right now, and I'm looking, and I'm like, wait, I just got lost in it because I think didn't the six had something, I think, and then they were going back and forth with Boston because Boston's like, oh yeah, like something about losing your first game or whatever, and then Toronto was like, oh yeah, well you guys were only good when there was 5 teams in the league, but now there's 6. And Boston's like, oh no, that doesn't matter. And I think Buffalo may have tagged in. Like, I don't really know. Luckily, the Rivs were out of this one for now. I feel like we're always in the middle at some point. But yeah, the beef was really, really heavy the other day.
That's the tea right there.
That is some hot tea, let me tell you.
And they're setting the tone for the bubble there in January. So
it's all friendly competition.
Absolutely, yeah. Until we take it to the ice and reevaluate.
For sure. But also, I forgot to mention, and we didn't talk about this last time, but I feel like she deserves a shout out. Our former teammate, well, now my current teammate, Ali Olnowicz, officially signed her contract with the Rivs. She was a practice player at first, and then she actually signed her contract, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. And unfortunately, they announced her signing on the same day as the bubble, so I felt like it got a little swept under the mat. But either way, we're very proud of her. We're very excited to have her on the Rivs, and it's nice to have her on our side now on the defensive end because we know like what to do against you, Lindsay. So like we're locked out.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting. Ali and I had a stint as D partners at Syracuse and roommates and then great friends. So. I'm very proud of her, and that's awesome. You guys got a good one.
I know, and luckily she lives around here, which helps us. So
likewise, I know how to play against you guys too, though. So.
Oh yeah, you say that now, Lindsay. I'm gonna beat you wide. I don't know if it'll be in this lifetime or the next, but it's gonna happen. And I'm really trying. I had a really bad week at practice this week, so I was very discouraged, but I'm back in the saddle, and I'm gonna get you.
Brooke, just remember that I'm 6 foot tall, and my stick is just correlates that. So even if my legs don't move too fast, I got a long reach to help me out.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right. That's awesome.
Don't give away too much.
I'm excited. The bubble's coming closer and closer. I think it's like 40. I want to say 48 days now, maybe 49.
It's coming.
I know.
It's going to sneak up on us. I'm excited. But for now, we have a very special guest. I'm very excited for this conversation tonight. It's a very important one as well. Our guest tonight is essentially a master of the mind, Brenly Shapiro. She is the mental performance coach for the Arizona Coyotes and also the founder and president of Heads Up Mind Gym, which is a high-performance training academy focused on the mental game. And Brenly, she's worked with athletes at all levels, including Olympians, pros, student athletes, you name it. She's worked with them. So she helps athletes break through barriers mentally to help them reach their full potential. So welcome, Brenly.
Thank you, guys. I'm super excited to be here.
Yay, this is going to be fun. This is very exciting. You're our first mental performance coach that we've had on the show. So nice. We have a lot of questions for you. So.
I'm ready, you guys. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah. So can you just give our audience and honestly us too, just a little bit of background about your company and how you kind of got to work in hockey, but at the professional level too?
Yeah. So I'm going to take you a long way back. I'm actually going to take you to when I was like a little girl and I was in grade 1. And I loved hockey my whole life. It was just like my thing. I had such a passion for the game. And I remember going to school, the first day of school, it's probably like my first memory. And I remember being really nervous and, I settled into the class and I made a friend and everything was going really well. And then the teacher decided to go around the room and she asked like the big question, like everybody can say their name and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I was super excited because I wanted to be in the NHL. Like that was I knew my answer. And so I waited and like I was super excited and I waited for my turn. I jumped up and I was, super proud and I stood up really tall and I said exactly that. I'm like, I want to be in the NHL when I grew up. And my excitement quickly faded as everybody in the entire class laughed at me. And I was like, oh, like, And they were like, you can't be in the NHL, you're a girl. And so it was, it was a little deflating in that moment, but I do remember sitting down and I kind of thought to myself, like, why not? Like, who cares if I'm a girl? Why would I let you tell me like what I can or cannot be? And I really think, like, even though I might not have identified at that moment, it was really like a significant moment for me because it was something that I always forged ahead with. Like, I just always thought, like, you can't tell me what I can do or I can't do. And interestingly enough, I didn't have an opportunity to play hockey when I grew up. I was in Winnipeg. That's my hometown. And there were no girls playing around me. And so I just didn't have a chance to do that. So I ended up being a soccer player instead, but my love was always hockey. And so, you know what? Listen, I might not have played in the NHL, but I am in the NHL, just like I said I would be in grade 1. And so, now who's laughing? So
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, because a big thing for us is if you can see it, you can be it. And
yeah.
kind of like what you're saying is like, everyone's like, oh, well, you can't be in the NHL, you're a girl. But I think regardless of if you're playing or if you're in your position or they have the diversity and inclusion positions that are really starting to pop up, like that's huge. And that's really big, especially for, I feel like us females, is that we're breaking the glass ceiling every day. And this is like just another way that you can go about doing that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And so I kind of went from that and like always having a passion and a love for it. I ended up like in my my schooling, I went into, counseling, I did all psychotherapy. And then I decided to put the two worlds together. So my passion for hockey and sport combined with like my counseling and what I did, and I blended them together and I built an entire performance program. And, I remember the day where I transitioned from just being in a regular counseling practice, and they were opening up a brand new rink in Toronto. And I kind of knew, like, if I was going to make the move, like I was working more and more with athletes and more hockey players, and I was loving it. And when I heard about the rink being built, I thought, okay, like this is my chance. Like, but do I do it? And, do I transition? I had a nice practice and everything was good and safe. And so something that, I say to everybody is growth never happens in a comfort zone. Like nothing grows there. So I took a leap of faith and I literally opened up an office in a hockey rink. And, some days I thought, oh crap, what did I just do? I sat there, nobody came, but eventually, it started building and building and building and, just gained huge momentum, opened up another division of the business, which is the Mind Gym. And so that's how my business grew, and then from there, my work took off and the program took off and I think people were really happy with it. And then I started out actually I did lots of teams, like minor hockey teams. And then I started working the OHL. So that was great for me. And I had a few years experience there. And then I just started working with higher and higher level athletes and, eventually into the NHL. So that's my story.
That's awesome. I love that. And I have the same dream as a little girl. Always said I wanted to play in the NHL too. And now I'm in the NWHL. So
love that.
That's my version, but no, that's awesome. And Brooke and I talk a lot about bag skating and all the hard skates and conditioning that we've been through as hockey players, but we don't really talk too much about the mental side of the game, and that's honestly just as important. And actually, before I came here, my roommate asked me if I was nervous, and I said, "Oh, I don't really get too nervous anymore, but I used to." And I said, "That's the worst thing that you can be, though, is nervous." And that's the mental game right there. And it really does affect your performance. So talk to us a little bit about that and how important the mental side of the game is.
Okay, so let me ask you guys a question. When you think about the game of hockey and you think about playing it at a high level, how much of the game, what percentage of the game do you think is mental?
I would honestly guess it's probably really high, probably like 90% or something like that.
Okay, Lindsay, what do you think?
I'm thinking the same thing, 90%.
Okay. So when I'm working with the pro guys, I'll always ask that question. Like, I'm always curious. And to be honest, I even ask everybody. So from young to old, and probably the average that I get, usually the lowest, they start at about 60%, anywhere up to 90. Some will even say 100, but I would pick like 75% as an average of all the numbers that I hear. So think about that for a second. Both of you guys just said 90%. And then you told me that you guys are training the physical. You don't really talk about the mental. You don't really think about the mental. If that much of the game of hockey is mental, then why are we not training that part of our game? Right? Like, you need the physical skill to do what you do. But, I'm a big believer that talent for me is highly overrated. Like, you need the skill. It's hard. But that being said, when you're competing at a high level, everybody can play the game. What's the one thing that really takes you individually and also as a team from being good to being truly great? And I'll always say it comes up here, because if this is not strong, I will never see you access in those moments what your body is capable of doing. So for me, that peak level performance, the mind leads the body. So strong mind, strong body. So that's, I think it's essential.
Yeah, I feel like, Lindsay, we've definitely had conversations with mental coaches. So we had a coach that was a mental coach that was really close with our head coach. Nice. And he came in and we did a lot of, I wouldn't say, it's not like team building. It's more like we'd work team identity, and that was big. And I personally took a lot away from that, because I agree. And I've definitely heard that before, is like, you can't reach your full potential until your mind, like everything is working fluidly, especially in your mind. So it doesn't surprise me at all that it's that high. And I do think that the more that and it's not trained enough for sure. So it's interesting that you say that, because sometimes you're like, oh, like I feel like I had a good game because I felt like I was in shape. I felt like I was doing well, keeping the pace. But like sometimes people doubt themselves because it's like, I just didn't feel like my head was in it. So it's very, very interesting.
For sure.
So what do you think is the pushback then? Why don't people train the mental side?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's changing so much right now. Like historically, I think it was a bit taboo. And I think more awareness in the world today, and mental health awareness and advocacy for mental health and mental well-being has sort of helped promote mental performance as well, where beforehand, I think the stigma was like, oh, if I need to talk to a mental performance coach or, a sports psychologist, then there's something wrong with me. And I just don't think it's seen that way now. And certainly my program, I always really reinforce the fact that it's very, very strength-based for me. And, you don't need to have a problem in order to strengthen your mindset and your mental game. So I think literally it's just like a muscle. You guys talk about getting bag skated, and, I'm sure you, right? Like think about the hours of physical training that you put in, our time spent in the gym. Like literally the mind is a muscle, and we can strengthen it the exact same way that we do the body. And, I think it's crucial.
I think, okay, so now that I'm thinking of this too, I think that's really, really important. And so I'm sure that you hear all the time about how like people having a high hockey IQ, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I feel like traditionally it's always been like, oh, well, you can't teach hockey IQ. Like you can train and you can work to get faster, you can work to get stronger. But like, I guess, do you see that changing? Like, because I feel like obviously the game is getting faster, but personally watching, I feel like it's getting a lot more creative. And so do you think that that's starting to become something that you kind of can not necessarily train, but develop more the more that you kind of take care of that mental part?
Yep. So I think it's twofold, but the answer to your question in short is 100% yes. You actually can train it.
Yeah.
And you guys touched on the mind gym. That's a part of my business. And so maybe I'll give you a bit more of an overview. We kind of have two divisions to the company. And one is the traditional sports psychology, mental performance coaching, like confidence, motivation, focus, emotional control, and composure. That's the mental game coaching side. And the mind gym literally targets exactly what you're talking about. It is a training center to work out the relationship between the eyes, the brain, and the body to enhance performance. So we can literally train the eyes. By the way, the eyes are the gateway to the brain, right? And especially think about the game of hockey, like everything is visual. So your eyes are drawing the visual cues into the brain. So we work to span peripheral awareness so that you can see more of the ice surface, right? Like if you're focused in one area, now you'll be able to see what's happening down there. You're drawing the information into your brain at a quicker rate. And then we actually work the brain to process information at a quicker pace so the body can output a quicker, faster, more effective response. You're going to see the ice better. You're going to be able to track objects better. So all the moving pieces and players, you're going to be able to have better target accuracy, better focus, better control, better decision-making under stress and pressure. So the answer is absolutely, you can train hockey IQ.
That is literally amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I wish that this was like, I was like 10 years old right now, because I would 100% invest in that service, hands down.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So how do you do this actually? Like, what are the tricks?
Yeah. So it's literally, think about it. That's why it's called the mind gym. It's literally a gym to work out your eyes and your brain. So you come in, it's like circuit training. So we have different stations around the room, and every station targets a different kind of skill. But when you put it together, it's all eyes, brain, body. So one station is like a big light board. And so you kind of stand, you have to focus on a center screen, and you just have to try and use your eyes. It's working peripheral awareness. And then you're going to tap out lights as they come up. So we're pushing how quickly you can see it, how quickly you can respond to it. We get measurements in different quarters of the board. So we'll know if somebody's like struggling, maybe lower left quarter, then maybe you're going to have trouble seeing the puck. And it's not like you can have 20/20 vision and not even realize some of these problems. So you can, and you can train the muscles of your eyes. So literally, if you didn't see it or things lower down, right? You think head up in hockey. Well, people are looking down because they need to see what's there, but we can train that so that your eyes can actually see it without having to look down. We can speed up your reaction time. We have another station that you wear 3D glasses, and it's got these tennis balls, and they light up like orange, and then they go back to yellow, and then they move all around this big screen in 3D. So this is object tracking, the ability to track multiple moving objects at any given time. So as they move, you have to be able to try and follow a number of balls, and then it speeds up, it goes faster, slower, and we can see the average speed you can track. And so when you think about it, right, there's 5 players on the other team that you have to track. You have to watch them. You have to watch the puck moving. So it really trains the brain's ability to process all of that information. We have a station that's specific to focus and concentration, because in hockey, you need intense peaks of concentration for longer periods of time. We have a station that trains memory recall, right? If you think about looking on the ice, everything's a snapshot. Your brain is taking a picture of snapshots out there. So when you put it all together, you see more, you think quicker, you react. We call it the 1 second advantage, guys. If you can see, think, and react a split second faster than everybody else on the ice, like, think about what an edge that would give you in your game.
Oh,
Yeah.
No,
I need that for sure. So.
I got a question here. Can you teach an old dog a new tricks though?
Yeah. Yes, you can. Absolutely, 100%. You know, the most important thing to know with all of this stuff, whatever it is, whether it's confidence, emotional control, this kind of brain training that we're talking about, the brain is what we call plastic. The brain genuinely has the ability to bend, to mold, to build new neural connections and pathways. We are not stuck with what we've got. We just have to work it, right? And we tend as people to like to show our strengths and not our weaknesses. Right. The more you work at anything, the better you're going to get. So yes, you can train a dog to learn new tricks. Absolutely.
That is so cool. So it sounds too, so as you're talking about all of these stations and such, I know, so I wouldn't call it a severe concussion, but I had a concussion back in high school. And we had to do, and I think we did it at Syracuse too, Lindsay, baseline training to work like reaction muscles, memory, and stuff like that. So when you're working with athletes, like, do people come in specifically after suffering concussions? Like, is that something that you focus on? Because obviously, like, I 100% would take advantage of your services right now, like 100% healthy. But yeah. How does that kind of work with athletes that are either like going through the immediate recovery, or someone that maybe had a concussion 3 years ago and feels like they're still a little mentally groggy? Like, how do you work with athletes like that?
It's a great question, and it's the same type of training, because if there's trauma to an area of the brain, again, you can build connections, you can build pathways, you can adapt. The brain has an amazing capacity to adapt around it. So we do baseline concussion testing. so that we actually get a read of cognitive functioning. And then if somebody does sustain an injury and they're worried about a concussion, they can come in. If we see a 10% decline in their cognitive functioning, like 10% or higher, we know that they have sustained some trauma to their brain. So we do the same types of things, but obviously it's going to be catered to where the person is at and being able to strengthen and, you know, continue to build. But it's all the same types of training. We use all of the things in the Mind Gym to be able to do that.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Now, switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
What's a common theme that you see athletes challenged with when they come to you?
Well, I'm going to tell you the biggest thing is, I would say, fear of failure. Or a fear, like fear in general, whether it's fear of making mistakes, fear of what the coach is thinking, fear of getting cut, fear of not getting ice time. It's just
Literally.
right? Like, it's underlying fear for me is the biggest barrier to success, really, because fear holds you back, right? If I'm afraid, then it's going to impact now how I behave on the ice. Like, am I hesitant? Am I rushing things? Am I getting rid of the puck? Like, you know, I'm not going to be patient with the puck. I'm not going to like look around and make a play. Like it's going to completely change the way that you play. So that would be probably the biggest thing, is that fear piece, and confidence also is a big one. And they kind of really feed into one another. But if you think about it, if you're afraid, if you're lacking confidence, that creates self-doubt, anxiety. Lindsay, you touched upon the nerves, right? How are you supposed to be a great hockey player? Like, even if you're great, like you could have all the physical skill, but you know, and also I like to say it's easy to be good when everything's good. Like, if you're having success or your team's having success, then I see everybody's feeling good. Everybody's great. And that's why, you know, we call it the slumps and the streaks, because when you're feeling good, then it's up here, like you're playing good. But when you're in a slump, it tends to last a lot longer because you're probably gripping your stick a bit tighter. Like, you know, you're more anxious and uptight. So those are the biggest things that I see. And the interesting thing is, honestly, it's at every age and every level. Like, that's the amazing thing. You know, when I started working with the guys in the NHL, like, they literally struggle with the exact same things as, you know, the little ones do. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Does it get better?
Well, you got to train it, right? Like, listen, you know, we're human, right? Like, we're emotional beings. We're not machines. Like, when you're tuned up as a Lamborghini or something, then you're going to do what you do every single time. But, you know, life happens, things happen. So we feel that, we carry that. But the ability to master your mindset really can make it's really the biggest contributing factor to long-term success.
I find that so fascinating, because I went to the University of New Hampshire for 2 years, and then I transferred up to Syracuse. And I remember growing up playing hockey, like, I always had confidence. I always felt like I was a decent player. And then when I got to UNH, I wasn't playing that much. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something wrong. Like, and then I would go out on the ice and be like, okay, I'm playing not to make a mistake rather than just like to play. Yeah. So I think that you're 100% right. And even now, like, I was telling Lindsay before on the intro, like, I had a terrible week at practice this week. I was like, I got moved off my line. I felt like I was just not doing well at all. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to get caught. Like, obviously just real, because I'm very, very hard on myself. So I think that that's something too that people don't really think of as they're just being hard on themselves and they're being too down on themselves. So I think that you saying this training aspect of it is huge, because even this conversation, I'm like, I feel better because I'm like, you know what? I had a bad week, but I can fix it. Like, it's all in my head. Like, I have the physical ability, obviously, that can be worked on too, but it partners with this training. So I guess going off of that, like, how often do you work, maybe not even with just the NHL guys, but I mean, you know, that would be a great stat to have, but just like other athletes in general too, like how often? Because I think when we were at Syracuse, I used to talk with a coach once a week, but even now, like, I haven't talked to a mental coach since I left, which is 2 years, you know? So, and I feel like it would benefit a lot. So I don't know how often, if you do it like every day or every couple of weeks, like how does that schedule kind of?
Yeah. So, I mean, it looks different for every person, but I would say like our most popular package is we do a 10-session program. Okay. And we teach you so much, not just like, we'll give you little tips and tricks and strategies, But it's almost like I say, we learn to teach you a new language, a different way to think. And so I feel like 10 sessions is a really good amount of time because we can teach things, we give strategies, but we can also help change people's perspective and outlook. Like we actually can change their mindset, and we see that change happening at about the 10 session mark. So we like to do that weekly, once a week. But listen, I've had some athletes that have been with me. They say like, I want to work with you over the course of a season. I have some that have been with me for 5 years, and that, you know, they've gone through all the educational part, and then they'll call me when they need, or we just do check-ins. So it does get a lot more flexible after that 10 sessions of like good, strong learning. And so, you know, somewhere between that 10 to 20 sessions, you really, really gain a tremendous amount of knowledge and information, and makes a huge difference.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And when you have these athletes come in, do you find that sometimes they're coming in, like if you get a cut, you go and get a Band-Aid and problem solved?
Yeah.
How do you find they're just looking for an immediate solution? And
often, often. I'm working with one guy right now, and he's like super keen, and he's all in. Like, you know, I asked motivation 10 out of 10. Like, I'll do anything and everything it takes, but like fix me, you know, like I just want to be fixed. Like, so we talk about it, he's like, oh, like, you know, I try to say we get these aha moments like, oh, wow, I didn't really realize, like, I call it the achievement curse when you're so driven to succeed. Like, you need that. But on the flip side, sometimes that can really work against you. So I kind of identified that, and he was like, wow, like I didn't really ever think about it that way. Okay, how do I fix that? Now, like, what do I do? So just kind of pulling back the reins and saying it is a process. You don't go to the gym the first time and, you know, think I'm going to lift X amount of pounds. Like, you got to work your way up. So it's literally just model it after how you train your physical body. It's a work in progress for sure.
That's interesting. I think too, going off of that, I've had male coaches and I've had female coaches, and a lot of them do say that, especially if they've worked in a male program, they're like, females are so much harder on themselves. Like, they read into everything. So how does that work? What differences do you see between your male athletes and your female athletes? Yeah,
there's a huge difference. I'll never forget the first time I did a girls team. I was so excited because I'm with the boys all the time. So I'm like, you guys are like, I was pumped. I'm like, you guys are my first girls team. I'm like, right on. And so usually like I try to get the boys talking, right? Like, you know, I'll ask them questions and I'll put it out to the group, and I'm like pulling teeth to get them to give me answers. And so I've been so used to that. And I asked the girls, and they literally didn't stop talking. Like, it was like this floodgate, and everybody wants to tell their stories. And I was like, oh, like, I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, we got to keep going here. I didn't know what to do, but yeah, it's different. It is different. You know, I think that the girls, like I said, they like to talk more. I think they do struggle more. The biggest thing that I see is the girls worry a lot more about what everybody else is thinking about them.
100%.
Disappointing their teammates or letting people down. Like, that's a huge theme with the girls.
And from like a team or not even individually, just from a team perspective, do you find the differences between girls and boys teams? I know sometimes people could say girls can be more catty, or what do you notice?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're just like, I think they come more from a place of threat with one another. And something that I would advocate so much for is that, you know, the more that we as women support women, like the stronger we're going to be. So, you know, but I think that's just from an insecure place, right? Like it's, I'm going to look at you, you're more of a threat to me, like, oh, she's doing well and I'm not doing well, and I don't want to let them down. Like, it's so other oriented, you know, as opposed to like, let's all support one another and really just drive to be the best we can be. I think that we're so much stronger like that. So, I mean, I'm always excited when I get an opportunity to work with the girls. I almost so close before COVID was going to work with one of the teams in your guys' league.
Oh,
I know.
Well, hopefully soon.
Yeah. So hopefully, you know, when things settle down, but yeah, like I do feel always that, you know, I want so badly for the girls and the women to be able to have some of the resources. Like, I feel like you guys just don't have the resources. and the training and the opportunities out there, you know. So I encourage you guys to spread the word, or even if it's reading a book, like just get a book on the mental game and, you know, start accessing some of the resources that are out there. I do believe that they're there, and, you know, girls got to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time with you. So just one final question is, what's the most important advice that you've ever been given or that you like to give to your athletes?
I would say the most important advice, and to be honest, I use it with myself. Like, I am all about empowering potential. So potential within myself, like you talked about, Lindsay, breaking barriers. We are capable of so much as human beings. It's usually this that stops and quits on us first. So one of the greatest things for me in my life, you know, and I go back to that grade 1 story, is like, I just trusted myself and believed in myself that I could figure it out. So that is going to be the biggest thing that I could say, is just be like a lifelong learner. And look, you guys, half the time, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I just trusted myself. I was going to figure it out. And that was it. So learn something every single day. You know, I always say I strive every single day to get 1% better. So if you continuously do that, step by step, day by day by day, you know, little by little, a little starts to become a lot. And so that's what I would say. And I'm excited too, because I'm launching a whole new online platform and community. So for all the girls out there, it's just going to be an exclusive monthly membership that's going to be everything to do with the mental game. I'm going to be there to support through webinars once a month and Q&As. So it's really like a cost-effective, kind of cheap way, but really to be part of a community together. And it's all about empowering potential. So that would be what I would say.
I love that. Oh my gosh, this has been like so empowering, like you said, but I feel like I've learned so much already. So we're definitely going to be in touch a lot after this.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me. It's so much fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. And like I said, we'll always be in touch too. So everyone out there, take your mental health seriously.
Thank you so much, Brenly. You're great. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Pleasure, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, another great conversation, a very important one, Brooke.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, what she's saying too, and we kind of touched on it, the part about just not taking it as serious as the physical training. And I find that to be so enlightening, because it's like, it is so important. And like she was saying, we don't have the resources. Like, yeah, so with the Riveters, we have a workout twice a week, you know, like a physical, go to the gym, workout before practice, and then we have practice. But we don't have like a mental coach. I mean, we do. So with the NWHL, we have the Headspace or Headway, I forget which one it is, either one, whichever it is. That's a really great platform for us, because it is so important. And I'm really glad that we have that as a resource. But I think, I mean, just with anything, it can always be improved. So I think that's something that, you know, myself too, like, I'm definitely going to be contacting Brenly after being like, please help me. Like, so it is really important. And not just in athletics, obviously she is an athletics specific coach, but just in anything too, you know, in life. So I do think that she touched on it too, is how important it is, and how the stigma is kind of dwindling away a little bit, you know?
Yeah, well, it's extremely important. And I'm in the same boat. I don't do any mental skills training. And it's definitely like, after speaking with her, it's like, why the heck not? Like, why haven't I been? You know, we've done tons of culture stuff with teams and everything, but nothing personal. And but Brooke, what are some things that you subconsciously might have done, actually mental skills training personally? Have you ever thought about that?
No. Now that you say that, obviously, I think, so we had a coach at Syracuse. I really tried to take advantage of that, because I'm like, one, it's free, obviously. Of course I'm going to take advantage. But two, like, sometimes I feel that we run into these problems where you talk to coaches, mental coaches, and it's like, it's the same thing over and over and over. And you're like, this is kind of useless. But talking with Dr. Mark and even talking with Brenly too, like, I felt every session that I got better, and that inspired me to take it a little bit more serious. So right now, I think I've kind of lost that, because I lost touch with that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I do want to focus on it a lot more because, to be honest with you, I really don't think that I do anything, even subconsciously or consciously, that, helps my mental skills.
I think you'd kind of be surprised though, Brooke, because I'm thinking about what I do, and I go to the beep test. That is a mental game for me. That's like, I know I can hit. Well, we had to hit level 10 at Syracuse in order. That was our passing level. And I'd go into that, and the whole time I'd just tell myself, "You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it."
That's true.
That's all. And like, maybe I couldn't, but I would get so worked up and so nervous for it because I wanted to pass so bad. And there's that fear of failure right there. And so the whole time I just tell myself, even if like I didn't think I could do it, I would just keep going. And then I get so tired at the end, and I made it, but it was just,
that's true.
You can do it. I can hear it in my brain right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, now that you say that too, like I did hear this one thing from someone sometime, and it was like, you can do anything for 10 seconds. So it's like, if you're holding a plank and you've been holding it for a minute and a half, and you're like, I can do it for 10 more seconds. Like I know that I can do it for 10 more seconds. Like, and even no matter how hard it is, if I'm on a back check and I'm literally dying, or it's like in the middle of a drill, I'm like, I can do anything for 10 seconds. That's all I need, just 10 seconds. So you're right.
That's right. So, another thing that I like to, I fake it until I make it.
Oh, the motto, our motto.
100%. And even Brenly even said it. She's like, I don't know what I was doing. And you just got to go and do it. And you might not even believe you do it, but just like tell yourself that you tell yourself to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you don't. And I think that makes a big difference. Like I know last year, that was me all through my master's program. I'm like, people are talking about things. I have no idea what's going on. And I acted like I did. And no one knew that I didn't know what was going on. And now I know.
True. I have, you know what? Now you say that, I do have to thank Maddie Welch for that too, because she is like the queen of that saying. So yeah, you're right. At least, yeah. Because then if you look the part, people are like, oh, she's legit. Like, for sure.
Oh, exactly. Well, what are some things that you want to try now that
I really think the consistency piece is huge. And because I did see some success with that after talking to mental coaches before, because it's true. Like some people, even when you go to the gym, you expect results within like a couple sessions. So I would love to see like how, if I were to take advantage of a course like that or something, to see the consistency period, because I think it's interesting because sometimes you're like, oh, like I had a great day, but I didn't feel great on the ice. It's like, oh, well, that could be part of your preparation. So I think kind of utilizing that too, and being more, so I would love to read some books actually, because I'm getting back into reading. I was a really big reader when I was a kid. But yeah, just taking advantage of simple resources like that, because I feel like everyone else has something different to contribute or to offer. So even like like I was saying, this whole session, I felt like I learned so many new things, and we've been talking to coaches, all kinds of different coaches for a while. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely take advantage of literature for sure, but and then acting on that too. But I'm sure that you have other ideas too.
Well, yeah, I actually read this book. I actually haven't finished it, but I'm working through it.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're trying.
It's called The Sports Gene, and it's about if you're born with the sport athletic gene, or if you can develop that and become athletic. And we're going to talk to a very athletic family down the line, spoiler alert, but families, you hear about families, our good friend Maddie Welch, all three of her, there's 4 girls in that family, and all 4 of them played NCAA Division I hockey. So there has to be some sort of sports gene in there, but it also really talks about, as far as I've gone in the book, it explains that you can develop these things, and it's a lot of what Brenly was speaking to with the mind gym, and actually like training your eyes, and because something about a batter, they have like better than 20/20 vision, because like they just practice hitting like the ball like so many times, so they have like unbelievable vision. And I think that's exactly what Brenly's talking about, like how we need to have peripheral vision. And if you practice it, you're going to get better at it. And who knew that you could train your brain like that? I didn't.
I didn't either. And when I was really, like I was saying before, that her talking about being able to train hockey IQ was like mind blowing to me, because it's true though. Like sometimes I'm sure you have even friends too, or former teammates that are like, oh, this kid could have made it so far, but they didn't because they were missing that one thing. Like, and sometimes it's speed, sometimes it's you don't have a good shot or whatever, but it's like, I feel that a lot of times a lot of potential is lost because people don't see the ice well, So knowing that can be a thing, because my dad has told me for years, he's like, you're born with hockey IQ. Like, it's either you got it or you don't. But having this is like very, like I was saying, I feel like the game has gotten a lot more creative too. So just seeing that and being like, okay, like, there's a lot of potential that's going to be able to come back to the mix now, because it's like, if people take it seriously and train that part as much as they train physically, like the whole sport is just going to grow so much from that.
Well, and then there's also the kids that are so talented and they're gifted and terrible attitude. And
yes,
every coach, every mental skills coach you've spoken with, they're going to tell you that your attitude, it's like 90% attitude too. It's your mindset. And you can fix that. You can change your attitude. You can manage your mindset. You can, that's up to you. That comes from within. You're not born with an attitude, mindset.
That's so true. Yeah. That is a very interesting point that you bring up too. Cause and it's so frustrating with people like that too, cause sometimes you're like, okay, this kid's got a bad attitude, but it's cause he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't care about hockey or whatever. But it's like, there are some people that are so talented, like you said, and then have a bad attitude. And it's like, this is so frustrating because you could be so good. And that helps like any player too. Cause when you're surrounded by people that want to get better, it's like, it's very like, you just want to be better. And having that attitude is like, it's huge. So,
and then to go off of attitude is also the drive that needs to come from within. You can have all the talent in the world, but you got to be able to push yourself. I know I personally, people can tell me to do things all they want at my dad. And
my dad too.
Not gonna happen unless I tell myself that I want to do it,
Yeah, no, you're so right.
It has to come from within, I think.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. So I thought that conversation, and it's huge. It's really important too, because I think the more that you talk about it, the more it spreads too. It's very infectious, and you want people to get better. And I feel like that helps too, because it's like you tell a teammate, hey, like, do you want to work on, like, we can work on it together. Like, we can focus on trying to get better. And I feel like that is something that people really appreciate too. So the whole stigma thing is definitely starting, like I said, to dwindle, and it's going to be huge, not just for hockey, but for any sport. So.
And last thing that Brenly really struck home with me was empowering other females.
Yes.
Often women are tearing each other down. We need to build each other up. And it's so true. It's because people are insecure and they want to, they're worried that they're threatened that they're going to steal their spot or their job or whatever. And it's cutthroat and it sucks. And we need to help each other because we're better as one. And with that is Sarah Fuller. Shout out to her. Let's build her up today, Brooke.
Yes. Okay. I was so sad that we didn't get to talk about her last week as much, but this week, I mean, obviously she made history last week, but she did it again this week. She had 2 extra points, which is like, that is huge. I think she was the first female to get points in a Power 5 football game. There might have been a bigger shout out to that too, but like, she's a beast. Like, she's out there. She doesn't care. Like, she doesn't need everyone to give her hugs or high fives or anything. Like, she's just like, no, I'm going to work. Like, and that was sick. I loved that. And like, I'm glad too that Vandy didn't just keep her on for one game when they needed her. I feel like she's earned her respect in that program too, and be like, yeah, like, I'm here, but I also deserve to play. Like, I'm an asset to this team. I'm not just like here, So that was awesome.
That's super exciting, and I know that one. That hits your heart because you're a football player yourself.
I know. maybe someday down the road, a female will play for Notre Dame, and I will be like, I am so jealous of you. So,
Somebody live out Brooke's dream.
yeah. Hey, someone's got to do it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's super cool. Breaking barriers. And honestly, this has been a huge year for it. We talk about there's something new that a woman is doing every week that we come on here, and we have to give a big shout out. It's super.
I know. Yeah, it's awesome. And I think it just goes without saying, like, that's a big thing too, is that, like, I feel like female athletes are all on the same page, and that, like, we want to empower each other, and that can go so much farther beyond what it is in the world of athletics. So I love what Brenly said, and I love you honing in on that too. Like, it's huge. Like, let's pick each other up. We're badasses. Like, we can do it.
So trolls and haters on the internet need to stop.
Yeah, literally stop. I was fuming when I saw those comments. Like, when, I don't remember which picture it was or whatever, when Sarah was playing and they were like, oh, like, I hope she gets drilled, or, oh, I hope, like, maybe they won't even touch her. And I'm like, who are you? Like, you're a keyboard warrior. Like, go away.
Seriously, keyboard hero as well. And that's just like every time like Sportsnet or TSN or a big, national brand posts something on social media, you go look at the comments and it's just these trolls, and it's like, all of these women who are doing these have done more than you have no right.
Exactly. And I think, I was looking at or someone brought it up today too, that it was like, yeah, look at the guys that are like, that's Sarah Fuller's on the field playing with versus the guys that are commenting. It's like, no offense, I'm sure they're whatever, but, like, who are you to say something? Like, go away. Like, there's no need for that. Like, ugh.
Seriously.
So annoying.
But what's been cool too is I've been following closely to the NWSL and
yeah,
what they've been doing, and what's going on with Angel City Football Club. Their ownership, they have so many owners. I swear there's a ton. And David Dobrik just bought partial ownership for his girlfriend, Natalie. I'm going to butcher it.
Don't even ask me what her name is.
For her 24th birthday. That's pretty wild. Could you imagine you're getting partial ownership of a professional team for your birthday?
Like, that's so cool. I think that is, like, honestly, maybe they'll even do that with our teams. Like, oh, partial owner here, like, spread the wealth. But yeah, like, I would love to be if I could afford it, I would 100% invest in a team. 100%.
Well, and so did Patrick Mahomes. His fiance, Brittany Matthews, she played soccer at University of Texas Tyler. So the NWSL is expanding to Kansas City, and they're going to get the rights to the Utah Royals, all their assets. And so his Brittany Matthews, she is now part of the ownership group over there for Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so cool. Like, I think it's huge too, because it just shows the investment in women's sports as a whole. Like, Patrick Mahomes is a football player, and he is now getting involved in women's soccer. You know what I mean? Like, that is just huge. And it could have gone the other way. Like, you know what I mean? She could have said, oh, I want to invest in a football team, or I want to invest in a baseball team. It's like, no, like, we're investing in women's sports. Like, that's where you got to be at. So, but yeah, also, so speaking of women's sports, the U.S. Women's Open is going on right now. I think it should be finishing up today or tomorrow. But I am especially excited to talk about that so our GM, her husband, works for the USGA. I think he's the director of communications. So he's down there right now covering it. And it seems really cool. So I'm, like, very, very excited to be able to kind of get some insight on that, especially like we've talked about in a year where women's sports are breaking barriers. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a huge Brooke Henderson fan. She's my girl.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's playing too hot, but she's from just down the road from me in Carleton Place. I'm from Ottawa, and I actually played against her when we were Smith Falls is where she's from. Yeah. And I played against her when we were like 7 years old.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, so go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I know. Well, we'll have to talk more about the results next week and see who wins, but Yeah, it should be finishing up, so it'll be very interesting. But again, so before we head out, we just want to give another massive shout out to Pro Skate Corner, our first official partner, like so exciting. But yeah, so anyone in the GTA, go visit them. They are literally amazing. New hours though for coronavirus, of course, 10 to 4 on Saturday, or is it Monday through Saturday?
Just 10 to 4 on Saturdays.
10 to 4 on Saturdays. Okay, so get over there for all your hockey needs. Again, Pro Skate Corner, first official sponsor, partner, amazing. Like, we're so excited to work with them. But for the rest of us here, thank you so much. Barn Burner Network, all of its 122 platforms, her network, and check us out online, barnburner.ca, for all the news and programming. We will see you all again next week.